America first forever. We will not surrender to the globalists. We will not back down. USA, USA, you damn well of Illinois. We must change our educational system. It has failed completely. We are not sheep. We will not be sheep. We will not surrender our freedom. We bring power back to the people.
You're listening to Thought Villains with Derrick Gibson and Cara Castronuova.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Thought Villains. We have my co-host Cara Castronuova here.
Hey.
We have a special guest today, Bob Powell, Marine. He's the Marine guy. And we have Randy to the right of me.
Are you raw?
Yes, Bob Powell. He has he has a show called The Truth is Viral.
That's right.
It's called The Truth is Viral. He's a very special guest today that we have. We originally actually were scheduled to interview John Pierce, the attorney, but he couldn't make it. He missed his plane. And I feel like we got really lucky because you came into town. So to give a really quick background on Bob, Bob's video I came across on Twitter. He had tweeted out, or not he had tweeted out, but somebody had tweeted out some video he had taken at the Capitol on January 6th. And I found it to be test. Sorry guys. I found it to be very interesting because what the video looked like was, it was like there was an infiltrator that was breaking windows. You could hear Bob's voice in the background, telling them, don't go in there. And he was firsthand witness to a lot of stuff going on in the Capitol. He got tons of footage that we're going to show that the FBI doesn't want to see. So Bob, please tell us a little bit more about your footage and what it is that you do.
Okay, well, I've been a journalist for 36 years. I earned a degree in broadcast journalism in 1986. I have a license from the FCC to operate any radio or television station in the nation. So I guess you could say I'm kind of the real deal. I know what I'm doing, right? I've worked for CBS Radio, CNN Radio, and I've worked at radio stations, television stations, and written for newspapers all over the country. So now, in my retirement, I produce my own show. It's called The Truth is Viral, and you can find it at bobpowell.blogspot.com. And I happened to be on January 6th, I happened to be in Washington, D.C. with my friend Peter Tantilli. That's going to be important later because the way the federal government treated Peter after what happened at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge and at the Bundy Ranch a couple of years earlier is germane to what's happening with our political prisoners right now in Washington, D.C. So Pete and I were in Washington, D.C. together. We were down around the Ellipse in the Washington Monument, and we were recording the president's speech and really enjoying the day. It was like a tailgate party. Everybody was having a blast. And about 45 minutes before the president stopped speaking, I felt that, Pete and I are getting pretty much the same footage, right?
Right.
So I felt that it would be prudent for me to start walking so that I could get footage of 500,000 to 1 million people walking straight at me. That would be some pretty compelling video. So that's what I did. My fiance and I started walking to the Capitol. And when we got there, the west side of the building was already under attack. And the president still had 45 minutes left to speak. So this narrative that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats are trying to run past us, that Donald Trump ordered people to go down there and attack the Capitol, is completely false.
Exactly.
Because it was already under attack long before his speech was over. Now, since I had my family with me, I didn't want to place them in any danger. So we went around the north side of the building to where our car was parked on the east side. However, once we got to the east side was also under attack. Well, I couldn't stop myself. I had to get involved. There was a safe place for my fiance. I put her in the back of a Department of Homeland Security truck. And I said, honey, you just stay here. You'll be safe here. And I'll go do what I do. And I'll come back and we'll go home and have some dinner. Well, I'm standing there at the bottom of the east steps of the Capitol. There's maybe a line of maybe 2 or 3 people deep, okay? And Then another crowd comes up behind me. So I'm sandwiched in between these two formations of people. And that's when things started to get nasty. The Capitol Police started beating on people and driving them back down the stairs. And I'm holding my camera up in one hand, my press ID up in the other hand, and I'm telling them, don't forget your oath. You don't have no reason to be beating these people. Of course, I had no idea that Ashley Babbitt had just been shot.
Wow.
And I got knocked down with this elderly lady. She was like 70 years old, an Air Force veteran, I found out later, and 5'0". And so I'm kind of got my arm around her as this crowd is surging past us. I said, honey, we're just going to stay right here until it's safe to get back up. And that's exactly what we did. Once the surge of people went past us, we walked up the Capitol steps. There was no resistance whatsoever.
Right.
Nobody was trying to keep anybody out. Now, as soon as I got to the top of the steps at the east entrance to the Capitol building, I look off to my right because I hear the sound of breaking glass. And I captured video of a young man by the name of Hunter Emke from California. He's an Antifa. And the Capitol Police tackle him, knock him to the ground, and, effect an arrest. Now, because there's a riot going on, they take his information, they take his physical driver's license, and they let him go. They figure they can get him later, and that's understandable, okay? But what happened next is inexplicable. These Capitol Hill police officers, 8 of them, are standing in front of the window that Hunter Emke had just broken. They're under no threat whatsoever. All of the action is going on at the doors to the east entrance. People are, trying to get in those doors. And then I hear a radio transmission telling them to displace, to leave that window. And that's exactly what they did. They left that broken window wide open, completely unguarded, while there was a mob beating at the Capitol doors 30 feet away. And as soon as they had walked down the east Capitol steps and back into the building, they didn't go at the crowd, mind you. They just left. Okay? Now, first thing that happened was I hear the sound of crunching glass behind me. I swing my camera around and I capture footage of a man that's dressed in all black. Okay. I've been in the Marine Corps and I've worked with police officers my entire life. So I know an operator when I see one. This guy was part of the club. Okay. Now, as soon as, I got to back up a second. I forgot this. He was talking to me just a minute earlier, and he was saying, why don't you guys go on inside? And I said, well, that's probably against the law.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So that's when he pulls the window out, and I turn around again and capture video of him pulling the window completely out of its frame and then stepping aside so that he could let people go inside. Now, he sees me at that moment with my press helmet on and my camera pointed right at him. So he does a quick 180 and changes exactly what he was doing. 1 second, he's pulling the window out, and the next second, you see a red-haired kid who figures prominently in this later, trying to go inside. Well, I'm a United States Marine, and I swore an oath to defend this nation from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't care if you're wearing a Trump hat. I don't care if you're carrying an American flag. Nobody's going in the Capitol through a broken window during a riot on my watch. So I stood there at the window, and I kept them out. I said, nobody went in. Okay, that's the bottom line. Even after the Capitol Hill police left it wide open and that FBI scumbag pulled it out, leaving me there alone, nobody went in that building. So after a bit, I'm basically there alone. Everybody had left. They're all over at the east doors of the Capitol. So I saunter over there and I start taking video. And as I'm just right outside the door. I mean, practically right at the threshold. I'm broke my shoulder a while ago, can't really lift it. But I'm holding my camera up and trying to, record what I can. And all of a sudden I feel hands on my back. I'm being pushed physically into the Capitol building. Now, at that time, a bunch of cops and the inner door start shooting tear gas at the outer door. Okay, and that drives the crowd back, me included. Now, I've got pepper spray in my face or whatever they're using. It hurt. And I'm wiping it out of my eyes, and I turn around and I capture video of this guy just standing there. Okay, he's wearing a tan version of the black suit that the other guy was wearing. He's wearing a balaclava, which is basically a scarf, but it's the type favored by special forces all over the world. So I'm getting video of this guy, and I really don't even realize it at the time because I can't see anything. But my camera just happens to be pointed right at him, and he's just standing there by the door. I mean, he is calm and cool as a cucumber. Okay, between the behavior of these two men, I mean, you could tell that they're operators. Okay, it's just that simple. Now, at this point, you could think, well, they could be anybody, right? Just maybe they were Proud Boys. Proud Boys said they were going to come in dressed in black, like Antifa, and cause some noise. You know, what makes you think that they're FBI agents, Bobby? Because to this date, not one. I gave the FBI 29 minutes of high definition footage from that day. And to this date, right now, at this hour, at this minute, and this second, they have not released a single frame of those 29 minutes of video. They haven't put out a single screenshot of either of these two men on their website where they're looking for people or looking for information on people that were at the Capitol these days on that day. Now, they haven't uploaded any of it to their YouTube page. They haven't put any of it on their Facebook page. They're publishing all kinds of fuzzy images of people doing nothing but milling around outside, but they have not published a single one of the HD images or video that I gave them 6 months ago. Okay, that's one part. Now, as a journalist, I was asking the FBI, I sent them messages. I volunteered to come in for an interview multiple times. And I find just in May, I sent them an official query. Okay, this was an official request for comment. I said, number one, who are these guys, or who gave the order to those Capitol Hill police officers to displace? And number two, who are these men? You haven't been looking for them. And number three, why? And I have not received an answer from the FBI. Now, over my entire career, I have dealt with governments at all levels, city, county, state, and federal. When you make an official request for comment, they always respond without fail.
Right.
Except for now. They may respond with a no comment, but they always respond. I've heard nothing but crickets from the FBI.
Wow.
So, that leads me to believe it's pretty conclusive evidence, when you take my experience as a journalist into view, that the FBI doesn't want to have anything to do with this. And neither does the Department of Justice. Those people that were charged for their actions at the Capitol that are from Michigan, where my show, The Truth is Viral, is based, have what the federal public defenders, basically. They're DOJ lawyers that perform the role of a defender for those that can't afford a private lawyer. I have called every one of them that is representing a defendant in Michigan, telling them that I have exculpatory evidence that would, benefit their clients. They haven't returned my phone calls. They don't want to have any part of this video. And it's really stunning. It really is. I haven't seen anything like this in my entire career as a journalist. I'm almost 60 years old.
Wow.
This stuff is just blowing my mind.
Well, do you mind if we roll some of the video? Maybe you could take us through it. Like, we're going to play
Sure.
the 6-minute video that you sent me and that you sent Derrick and I, and we'll play it and then ask us to pause when you want to explain something and what's going on. So if you guys could play the video, this is the video, some of the video footage from January 6th that Bob took.
Okay, now, at the very beginning of this video, you'll see me panning or taking a shot of the crowd. Now, I'm going to pan to the right just in a second, and you're going to catch a really good close-up image of the FBI agent right there. That is the FBI agent that eventually went to the east window and started pulling it out of its frame completely. Okay, roll it forward a little bit more. Now, just a second, stop. That guy right there with the Trump hat wearing a ski mask. He is the redhead that the federal agent was fighting with later on. And he's carrying an American flag and you'll see, you can tell. Okay, he's just tall, lanky beanpole of a kid. Okay, let it roll on. We're going to see now the arrest of Hunter Allen Emke of California. Now, these 8 Capitol Hill police officers take him down.
And he's Antifa?
Yes. The majority of the squad, there's the kid with the American flag right there on the left. See him?
Yeah.
You'll see him again in a minute, only he doesn't have the mask on and the Trump hat's gone.
Have you identified him as Antifa?
Yes, but I haven't been able to find him.
Okay.
He hasn't been arrested that I've found. So these Capitol Hill police officers are now forming a protective barrier so that the 2 officers that are actually affecting the arrest of Hunter Emke can do so unmolested. Now, while we're on this part, just watch that kid with the American flag, and you'll be able to recognize him from the way he stands, the way he walks, and the flag that he's carrying later on in the video. Okay, now you see there that the window has been spidered and broken. Just one pane of glass is completely out. And the one to the left of it has a dent in it. Now, the crowd's getting pretty worked up. They're saying, you're not taking him, you're not taking him. But they actually didn't take him. They took his driver's license and let him go. Now, that's kind of understandable because they were a bit busy at the moment. You know, take his driver's license, pick him up later, right? No problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is what happened next. Now, we have these Capitol Hill police officers standing there in front of that window. Most of the action is going on over to the left where the east entrance is. These men are under no threat whatsoever. However, the indictment of Hunter Emke says that they were being attacked by the crowd, and that's why they had to leave. At 3:10 p.m., I heard a radio transmission that caused me to turn my camera on. They were ordered to displace and leave that window completely undefended. And that's exactly what they did. They walked away from that window, down the east steps, and disappeared into the building. Then at 3:12, I'm just kind of picking up glass and for souvenirs and whatnot. And over to my right is the FBI agent. You can hear the... Okay, roll it back just a little bit. I want folks to hear what he said to me. He said, a little bit more. He said, why don't you guys just go on in there? Yeah, give me about 10 more seconds. Yeah, bring that volume up.
Why don't you guys open up the rest of it?
Because I think that would probably be illegal.
That would be my voice saying it would be illegal to go inside the Capitol.
I'm just picking up garbage.
Okay, so now I turn around, panning left, and I catch this guy full on, pulling that window out, and he steps aside to let people go inside. There's that kid again without the mask. He was trying to go inside, but because Mr. FBI Undercover saw me in my press helmet pointing a camera at him, he decides to, flip the script, and instead of getting people to go inside, now he's pushing them out and fighting with them, right? Why does he do this? Because he knows that his cover has been blown. And now this is the last image you will ever see of that man because he disappeared into the crowd and we never see him again.
Wow.
Now, just a few minutes later, as I said earlier, I'm over at the doors to the entrance of the Capitol building. And there's a man on my left. If you watch the video right about here, you can see me being pushed in. Do you see that? Roll that back one more time. 10 seconds back. Watch as I'm pushed in. You can see the motion of my camera. Watch this. Pushed in. The guy that's yelling, hold the line, standing there on the left side of the door, is pushing people inside the Capitol building. Now, I'm going to get a face full of mace here. Some of the people that don't like me are really going to get a thrill out of that. And when I turn around to, wipe the tears out of my eyes, I get the guy standing there right at the corner. I caught him cold. He's just standing there like he's standing there with a purpose. He's there on a mission. He's not a rioter. He's not trying to go inside. He's pushing people inside.
Oh, I just got sprayed.
Now I'm going to catch this guy again. He's still standing there in the corner, pushing people inside as they come along. Okay, now I've sent the video to the FBI. They haven't been arrested. They don't appear on the FBI's website where they're asking for people to give them tips. There's no video of these men. There's no photographs anywhere on the internet of either of these two guys. The FBI is not looking for these two men, Cara.
I mean, to me, that was very obvious. I don't know about you guys. When I saw the guy, he breaks a window, and then all of a sudden he acts like he's innocent. He pushes the guy away. He got caught. Derrick, you know what I'm saying.
He was stunned. He was stunned. The guy took his mask off, so they had to set that up so make it look good. Like, oh, surprise, surprise! I'm stopping this guy because his cover was blown, like you said. I mean, it's clear the footage are great. You got some real good footage, but it's clear it was a set up. After looking at all that footage from you and from the other footage I've seen, it's clear it's a setup. I've seen the ones with the police waving them in and all that, not even being pushed. So they was invited to the Capitol. It's crazy.
Okay, now add that to the fact that I'm not in FBI custody.
Right.
They haven't even called me for an interview.
Wow.
And you know why?
Yeah.
I know exactly why.
They don't want this
because
one.
if they try to swear out a warrant for my arrest, they're going to have to put this video in front of a federal judge.
Right.
And the moment that they do that, the moment that they put that video into the record, they're screwed.
Right.
Now, has this footage been really shown besides, we're showing it here today. I saw a news clip with some of the footage. What station was that on?
OAN with Dan Ball.
Right, on OAN with Dan. And we spoke to Pete Santilli earlier briefly, and he said that OAN said that they found some footage. Was that your footage?
Yeah, it is. Yes. I have been trying for 6 months to put this footage into the hands of people that can do something about it. And I have been meeting resistance from multiple vectors. In the first place, hundreds of emails that I've sent out with the link to the video have been returned undeliverable. If you go to bobpowell.blogspot.com, you'll see an example of one such email that I sent to Senator Ron Johnson. Okay? And in the Twitter thread, I tagged him and put the screenshot of the returned email up there. I said, Senator Johnson, is your email broke?
Right.
I don't think it is. But anyway, if the videos haven't been returned undeliverable and they do happen to make it to their destination, it's being ignored.
Right. And it's such valuable footage. I mean, it's so clear, it's so sharp, it's so crisp. All the footage I've seen from the Capitol, like you said, it's blurry, it's cell phone video. There's thousands of hours of stuff that hasn't been released. You can only imagine what that has on it.
Yeah. They have 14,000 hours
14,000 hours
of surveillance footage. And that would be extremely valuable because if we had that surveillance footage, we could find out where these FBI guys came from and where they went to. We can just follow them camera to camera to camera. And that's how they, produced images of the person that allegedly placed bombs outside of the Republican and Democratic headquarters.
Right.
The street cameras, and they just follow them from one camera to another, right? They could have done the exact same thing there at Capitol Hill, but they've got 14,000 hours of video that they refuse to release. They won't even release it to the defense lawyers. If the defense lawyers want to see this video, they have to go in like a skiff. And they can't take any recordings of it. They can't download it. Then all they can do is look at it.
Right.
So they can't have any copy of their own. And, that's against the rules of
It
evidence.
is against the rules. It's not a fair trial.
No, not at all.
So there's these guys, as you all know, we had a rally about this today. Thank you for speaking, Derrick, for speaking, and thank you, Bob, for speaking, and Randy, thank you for helping me plan this out. Citizens Against Political Persecution. We had a rally in Foley Square in Manhattan today to demand the release of the political prisoners that are in jail right now. A lot of them who it's now coming to light were entrapped.
Right.
They were entrapped by the U.S. government, possibly. You know what I mean?
This is a definition of entrapment. When you encourage somebody to do something that they wouldn't normally do, that is entrapment. So when they took the window out and tried to invite people in, that's entrapment. When they're pushing people inside the building, that's assault.
Exactly.
So there's a federal agent out there. It's going to be the subject of an unsub warrant. I'll file a warrant for his arrest myself.
Right.
And just put another little piece of the evidence into the record.
Right.
And the one thing I would say is, like, in the time that Cara and I have been looking into a lot of this, I mean, you go back to the incident where Governor, what's her name, Whitmore?
Stretch and Gretchen. She's my governor.
Yes. But
that was her name in high school, by the way.
That's another exact FBI foiled a plot.
Perfect.
That ultimately 5 of them, paid informants, undercover operatives, are the ones who actually instigated it.
The FBI doesn't solve crimes anymore.
Right.
Exactly.
They create crimes.
Create them.
Yeah. And the one thing I would say is, I mean, like, this particular video that you're walking through, I've done a lot of reaching out, speaking with a lot of people, especially about January 6th. And my thinking is that there's at least 20 to 30 instances just like this that exist out there, where things like this have been captured. I've talked with people who have seen it themselves. We're in the process of trying, as an extension of CAP, one thing is to educate Americans that this is going on. The second thing is beginning to look into it and get the truth out there.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's another thing that we're kind of working on behind the scenes.
Well, thank you for sharing that video. Because America needs to see it, and for taking such clear video.
And the one thing I will say is, if anybody has any kind of video like this that they'd like to kind of get out there, contact us on citizensapp.us.
Right.
That's our site.
Citizens Against Political Persecution. We're really investigating this stuff deeply right now because no one else is doing it. So it's like, pretty much the 4 of us and some other really great people like Pete Santilli and like the other organizations that are working on this. But there's no politicians really working on this right now.
That's some great.
Actually, there is. Getting back to your question about OANN a second ago, I sent this video to 535 members of Congress. I made 535 phone calls and left messages at each of their offices in Washington, D.C. I got no joy from that. And they must have thought that I was some kind of I don't know, but I've got that Marine Corps determination.
But how could they not want to take that? That's newsworthy.
I don't know.
Because don't fit the narrative that they are pushing.
Don't fit the narrative. That's right.
That's crazy.
But so I developed another tactic. I started calling the home offices back in the district of these folks, okay? And I'm not gone all the way through the list, but so far I've been able to reach Kirsten Sinema and Josh Hawley and Paul Gosar of Arizona. So all 3 of them have the video now. And just today, as we were coming back from the rally, we got a call from Pete Santilli that said OANN had announced that the script was flipped, that Senator Sinema and Hawley say that they have come into possession of this video that I gave them like 3 months ago. Well,
finally, eventually the truth always comes out.
And only if we're dedicated to pushing it out
we
there.
Can't give up.
They can shut me up. Easy. All they got to do is flip a switch, and I'm electronically isolated from the world. But I got lucky, okay, because Epic Times first published this video when they did a timeline of the riot back in February. Then it was picked up by the Gateway Pundit and Breitbart and, let's see, a couple other small outlets. But I bought I did everything that I could think of to get this video to somebody that could see it and would do something about it. I bought a cameo from Jason Chaffetz, the former Utah representative, paid $45 to send him this video. And he says, "Oh, Bobby, you know what you ought to do? You ought to send it to the FBI. I'm like, no crap, Sherlock.
Right.
That's the first thing I did.
They all
I've
know
been doing
what's
it for
up.
months.
Right.
Okay, but Cinema's office and Holly's office did call me back, and we've been kind of going back and forth. Just had the one conversation with Paul Gosar's representative,
Right.
but I'm sure we'll be bringing him on board too.
He has been speaking out.
Yeah,
very vocal
and
about
the
it.
only way that this is happening is because that Twitter thread that you saw has gone viral.
Yep.
And
The
it's
truth goes viral.
That's right. The truth is viral, and it is putting pressure on these politicians to do something about it.
You know who
because
actually
now
said that to
millions
me?
of people have seen this. Over 2 million impressions the last time I saw of that Twitter thread.
Felicia Knold. I don't know if you know that
I
name.
do not.
Felicia Knold. She was actually
She was at the Capitol. She was arrested with her brother.
yes, very interesting story. She was actually in a severe car accident a year before. She went through the windshield. They didn't expect her to survive. So on the 1-year anniversary of it, to celebrate that, she was going to go to her first rally with her younger brother. So they get in a car to take a trip. They go to D.C. They meet up with 3 other guys. They get involved. They want to stick together, whatever. They ended up putting orange tape, I think, on their arms. And because of the orange tape,
They're trying to get them for conspiracy.
conspiracy.
Oh,
So that's what
Now
they're
this-
doing. That's what they're doing with these charges, as Randy and I see. They're trying to tack on conspiracy. You know what I mean? They knew each other. They were conspiring. This was not a conspiracy. Derrick and I were both there. We saw it with our own eyes. It was a passion. People were angry. People were upset. But there was no one that was planning this beforehand. What do you think,
It was
Derrick?
an emotional outburst, and everybody just got led away with the emotional outburst. Got drawn into a trap, unbeknown to them. Just got drawn. A lot of people are unaware. Well, you can't go in the Capitol. You can't do this or that. Especially when the police was inviting them in. So you go, okay, no problem. Let's go in the Capitol. I always want to go in there and see anyway. So that's what people did. They got led into a trap, and now they're using this. Well, I said from the beginning, this was all a setup to get President Trump. That's what it was, and Trump supporters, and this is how I feel today. They got these people locked up, and they keep them in unsanitary conditions. They got them isolated from one another, feeding them scraps. Some of them sick. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. And they charged with misdemeanor, so why not give them a bond and let these people out and come back to try? It's not like Guantanamo Bay terrorists. They got treated even better. And remember all the people out protesting about the Guantanamo terror, and we not treating them right in this and that. Now, where are these people today? It makes no sense. This is something that is simple, and it shouldn't be happening on no level of government. So the law enforcers are breaking the law. This is what is happening.
Yeah, they are trying to pressure these people into pleading guilty.
Deals. Absolutely.
And
Yep.
that way
Trying
they
to
can
break 'em.
say, well, we've convicted all these people for
Right.
attacking the Capitol. And that's how the federal government has a 97% conviction rate.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
They scare people into giving up.
Exactly.
Well, now hear this. You can't scare me. Okay? I've lived my life.
It reminds me of the movie that came out about was it the Atlanta bombing? Olympics?
Yeah,
During
the
Olympics?
Olympic
Richard Jewell.
Right,
Yep.
Richard
Well,
Jewell.
it's just terrifying in general. I could say from experience, when I was 20 years old, I got arrested for being in a car with a guy who was a drug dealer, and they charged everyone in the car with everything in there. And they terrified me so badly that I pleaded down to some violation. So that's exactly, they just terrify you. These guys are terrified right now. They're throwing everything in the book at them. They're looking at some of these guys for trespassing. They're looking at 30 to 40 years. The shaman kid is looking at 40 years. Oh. He didn't even break in. He walked right in. There's video of him doing it.
Taking
So that
pictures.
they're desperate, and they break them before trial by putting them in solitary confinement, have no contact with their families. They aren't receiving their mail to get them by with words of wisdom, biblical quotes we have sent them that they have not gotten. And so that they plea bargain and they could say it's a conviction. They don't want this stuff going to trial.
No, they don't.
You know?
And
It'll fall apart.
The way that they're doing it is particularly disgusting because most of these Capitol Hill suspects are white.
Right.
And they're putting them in a D.C. jail where their jailers are black. And they're telling the jailers, these are white supremacists.
Right.
So, the jailers automatically look at them as bad guys and treat them
Right.
poorly.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they are ordered to treat them poorly.
Right.
So
Yeah, we've heard
it's
horror
awful.
stories. And what do you think of this, guys? Like, I know we had spoken about this before. The Senate voted down the January 6th commission, and now Nancy Pelosi is saying, well, she's going to go ahead through the House and do the special committee for January 6th. I mean, like, obviously they're not going to be using your footage.
No.
You know, they're going to look and pick and choose what they want to look
they
at.
will.
I mean, if they really did an investigation, they would all turn up guilty themselves. I think Nancy
Right.
Pelosi has some guilt here.
All of them, they set it up.
Of
All of
course
them was
she did.
in on it. All of those, all the time they tried to impeach President Trump and it failed. Every single one of them was in on this. And one day it's going to break loose. Everybody going to see the truth. So this is what they're doing. Like I speak often, I was like, these tactics been used. It's nothing new, really. It's new to some people, but it's nothing new to me. I'm 60 years old. I've seen this over and over again.
Where's your gray hair?
These people will sit you, like you said, they'll go looking for a crime. They'll force you into a crime just to trap you, to get their narrative over and say it's this is that. So they was 100% beat on getting President Trump and Trump supporters, and this is what they set up to do this, to get a lot of them right. That they enforced President Trump not to be able to run for political office again because he went in there and he disturbed all the institution, and they didn't like that.
And
It's just
that could be one reason why Nancy Pelosi ordered this attack, because there were 5 legal challenges from states where the election was being contested that were supposed to be brought up by the members of the House from those particular states, right? Those legal challenges, all 5 of them were dropped after that riot.
right.
So Trump never did have his day in court.
Never.
The other part about it is, if I recall this correctly, the Sergeant of Arms of both the House and the Senate, which is the top law enforcement person that they report directly to the Speaker of the Senate, the Speaker of the House.
Yes, they do.
They resigned within the first 24, 48 hours, did they not?
Yeah, I believe they did.
Has anybody looked into that? Why?
And not only that, I think it's about 15 or 20 police officers did the same thing.
Oh.
And some committed suicide.
I believe two I know of committed suicide. And not only that, but I think that the chief of police with the D.C. Metro, I believe he resigned.
He did.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's important that people ask these questions. Like, we don't know.
Exactly.
I'm just going to say, I don't know for certain, but I'm very street smart, and I see something is very wrong here. You know, with everything that I've noticed, it's just insanity to me. Like, seeing videos like that, it's crazy what we're going through in the world today.
Not only that, but what about the 4 other people that they claimed died by natural
Right,
causes?
that's what I was going to bring up. Like, I don't even want to go there. Like, who needs to get pulled off YouTube when we just started out, right? And I'm not passing on this to be fact. I'm saying it should be looked into, those other 4 deaths. There was nothing released. I was there, and I'm going to tell you, I firsthand saw somebody be trampled. I thought it was the female that they said was killed. I did some more research. It did turn out not to be her because she was up by the steps. But there was a person I saw that get trampled and was laying lifeless. And I thought I had it on video, but I guess I didn't. I saw that with my own eyes. Like, the police were blazing through people, and then they say there's 2 guys had a heart attack and had a stroke. I don't know anybody that just at a Trump rally or that just has a heart attack or a stroke. Yeah, right. That's very suspicious.
One of the girls they said died of an overdose.
Whatever it is, I mean, like there needs to be more investigation into this.
Exactly.
Just as much as they're saying, oh, there needs to be January 6th committee. Investigate the 5 people, the 5 deaths that happened that day. Right. That's what you need to investigate.
Exactly.
Why aren't they investigating that more further?
Well, what about the clip that came out with the guy that got pushed off the 2nd-story ledge?
Right.
Yeah, he's died.
He did die, and then supposedly natural.
So he died, and I didn't know that. Who was that? Was he one of the 5, or was he a 6?
He never moved.
He was one of the 5.
If you actually look at the footage,
so because they said it was a stroke and it was a heart attack, and now it's like it's so fishy.
When that guy got pushed off,
wow.
he was lifeless, even when he was on a stretcher being taken out. There's footage of it.
Right. And I'm not, look, again, like I said, I don't know if this kid was crazy or not, but I interviewed a kid after the whole thing that claims that he saw a young woman shot with a rubber bullet. Do you remember that rumor that was going around? Right. A lot of people were saying there was a young girl that got shot with a rubber bullet and was carried off by her family, and she died. This was a rumor going around the whole place. You know what I'm talking about.
Right,
and all of a sudden, the news never report that. We don't know what happened with that. But these all things need to be looked into and investigated. This is what they need to lay off these January 6th quote unquote insurrectionists. They already got them.
And I think this is part of the reason why they're going after him so hard to create that fear.
Distraction.
To stifle people so they won't come forward and talk about it.
Exactly. Be too afraid to come forward.
And
People are too afraid to even go to D.C. now.
And the only way to really stand up against it is if everyone stands up united and comes out and exposes it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, it starts here. I mean, it starts with this footage. It starts with getting it out. It starts with with awareness events like we did today. So today we did a rally. You spoke. Thank you so much, Bob, for coming in. Where'd you come in from?
Well, I came in from Florida. That's not where I'm from. I just happened to be down in Florida when the
just
opportunity
to speak
arose.
at this event, and thank you so much. And thank you to Pete Santilli for live streaming it so everybody else in the nation could see it that weren't here in New York. And thank you for you guys for helping out with it. It's such a great cause. If you want to learn more about Citizens Against Political Persecution, go on citizensapp.us, and then you could learn more about our organization and what we're doing to expose this, to help the families and to help with their legal expenses.
And there is a link on there of our event today.
Yes, please go watch the link.
If you want to go.
Right, it's on Rumble, and Bob is speaking, and Derrick is speaking, I'm speaking. Randy helped me put this whole event together. So go watch it because there's a lot of really good information there. So I mean, it's just we need to demand a commission to investigate. I think the 5 deaths of the American citizens at the Capitol.
And the way we do this is to literally shove the truth down their throats until they choke on it.
Exactly.
People think 100%. That you share a video one time, you've done something. Let me tell you something. You haven't done a damn thing. I've got bursitis in my wrist from sharing and copying and pasting and sending emails and making phone calls for 6 months, 18 hours a day. And now it's finally getting a little bit of attention, but it's not enough. I want this to be the top story on the national news for the next 6 months until these traitors are arrested and Donald Trump is put back in office.
It's clear that no politician on either side is interested in taking on this story. Yeah. They want to just swept to the side on the Republican side and the Democrat side.
These are to push.
Elected. Yeah, some of them are. Some of them are very few.
But not very few.
Yeah, very few of them.
But I will say this, in the media even, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Steve from PT News Network. I had a conversation with him. He went and did a deep dive. He found this guy, Mike Epps, I was telling you about earlier. I mean, there are some of these investigative journalists.
But there's no politician standing up for the people. That's what Dennis is trying to say.
They are sworn. All 535 are sworn to uphold the laws in the Constitution of the United States of America, and they're not doing it.
Exactly.
Because justice is not being served correctly like it's supposed to. These people been put in jail, and they're saying, well, you guilty. It's innocent until proven guilty. They don't have that luxury of saying that. They're like, okay, throw their ass in jail, and they guilty. They got it's insanity what is going on.
We'll dig this. Out at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, Pete Santilli was arrested on the basis of a 302 report that had from an interview that never took place. An FBI agent fabricated evidence in order to arrest an American citizen with the intention of putting him in prison for the rest of his life. That agent, and the reason that Peter's not in prison right now is because it eventually came out. It was shown to the judge, and the charges against him were dismissed with prejudice. But the FBI agent that actually fabricated that was never punished.
Right.
What was the 302 report about?
I'm not sure about the particular
right.
details.
Anybody that wants to learn more about that, Pete Santilli, he was just a great guy. He was so nice today to live stream our event so people could see it across the nation. The Pete Santilli show, one of my favorites. You guys should definitely need to watch that show. And he was a political prisoner himself, 619 days in solitary confinement.
Without the ability to post bail, mind you.
Right, exactly. Wow. And that's completely unconstitutional. And he mentioned to me that one of the things that got him through was getting mail from the outside, which is one thing these guys in D.C. aren't getting.
Right.
I've called up the jail demanding to know why they're not getting their mail because we've sent stuff that postmarked over a month ago with tracking and it didn't arrive. Finally, they gave Chris his letter, one of the guys we sent to, after over a month because we called up there and we have it on tape.
We called it each, I think, 3 or 4 days in a row.
And the guy on the
tracking
phone,
number said that it was delivered like a week and a half ago, or as actually picked up from the D.C. post office. And
but that's the third attempt.
I know.
We had sent it three other times, so they're just not giving them their mail because they want them to be mentally broken. The letter I wrote him was chock full of Bible quotes. stuff to stay strong and keep his his sanity when he's in there, and they're not giving it to them because they're trying to break them before trial so that they plea bargain and they could call them a prosecution so that all this evidence doesn't have to go to court for America to see. I hope there's some guys in there with the fortitude that will take it to trial, and America could watch and watch the evidence.
From what I'm understanding from Pete, they have all decided to take it to trial.
Wow,
they're
that's freaking brave.
They're uniting under John Pierce and his leadership, and they're all going to take it to trial.
And one of the things I just want to hit on, if you go to our website, we're in the process of building out mailing addresses for a lot of these guys that are detained. We have, 4 or 5 of them there now. So if any of the listeners want to help out in some way, the best recommendation I can give is what Cara's speaking to. Send these guys letters of encouragement.
Right.
Whether it's once a week, a couple times a week.
What else you can do is put some money on their canteen books.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
In prison, you need stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They charge you for everything, for papers, for these little foldy pins that you can't stab anybody with. For stamps, they charge you outrageous prices. Chips are $3. But people depend on this stuff. These sundry items are currency.
Well, it's like
inside
this,
of
in the
prison.
statement that Chris Worrell had
Chris
wrote-
Burrell is the gentleman in prison who has cancer,
Right.
and he has been unable to receive cancer treatments because he's being detained unconstitutionally by the United States government, and he feels betrayed by the government. He said that. He's very weak. He needs cancer treatments.
Yep.
He's very sick.
And he spoke about the diet, though, right?
Right, he said
Food with no
because this isn't
nutritional
his
value.
first run with cancer. I mean, this is a recurring cancer, and when you have cancer, obviously you need to eat nutritious food. You can't eat disgusting whatever it is they give you in prison.
Right.
And they're giving them breakfast at
Bologna
2:30 in the
sandwiches.
morning. 2:30 in the morning. They're waking them up to give them food, throwing it in their cell. They're eating on the floor. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't make this stuff up. So,
and when we say horror stories, Cara and I both have heard so many horror stories. I mean, there's one particular case where the jailers came in the dead of night, 4 of them, handcuffed a guy to the bedpost, and beat the living crap out of him.
right, that's
Fractured
the
his
guy
eye
right,
socket.
exactly.
To this day, he's blind in one eye. Just utter insanity. I mean, you would never imagine that this could possibly go on in a jail here in the United States of America.
I don't recognize my country anymore.
I don't.
I grew up thinking the FBI's were the good guys, right?
What we need to do, this
But,
is the truth that we
no.
need to get out to the American people.
Right. The truth of the American people is that they're harassing citizens like regular people, and they're terrifying us. The FBI came to my house to harass me. I was in Florida on vacation, and my whole trip was ruined because I was terrified that when I went home, I didn't know what they wanted. I think I called you, Derrick. You were one of the first people I called. I'm like, guess who just showed up at my house? There's nothing that I did wrong that day. I was peacefully protesting. I was nowhere near the Capitol. The FBI had no reason to come to my door, but they're just trying to, number one, and I told this to my friend the other day, who the FBI just visited him 2 days ago. So they just keep rounding up people. And they said they asked him for his phone. So they're just trying to get footage. I said, they're trying to get footage so that they could incriminate other people, so they could find other people to mess with an arrest. Eventually, where does it stop? Eventually, are they going to start going to the door of the people that were just there watching from the street?
Well, this is
But
the thing.
they are, because that was me.
But
That was me.
But and the biggest thing is, and this is why we name this Citizens Against Political Persecution. This is what's happening on only one side of the political spectrum. Here in New York, this past week, the DA came out and just pretty much dismissed all charges against anyone who rioted, looted, anything in the last year and a half here in the city.
Right.
Same thing happened out in Portland, Seattle, these other places.
And Washington, D.C.
Someone needs
You
to
know,
and
it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum that you're on. People need to wake up and see what's happening and see that, the abject, injustice that's
Right.
being done.
and depravity.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. You should understand that this could happen to you. And I say this all the time. There were some Black Lives Matter counter protesters for just a little while at a protest today. It wasn't so bad. And I said to them, listen, we're sticking up for you too. We're standing up for you too. It's not
Exactly.
just people we agree with.
Exactly.
We believe in your freedom to protest and your freedom of speech. So please,
And
stop.
that's the one thing I would always say. I mean, I've been to a lot of rallies. I've been to a lot of events all across this country. And the one thing, when I'm out there, speaking with Antifa or BLM, I support their First Amendment right, even though I may not agree with it.
Yeah,
They don't support ours, though.
Pete and I went down to Grand Haven, Michigan once to support the right of a black theology communist preacher
Exactly.
that had been imprisoned for basically doing nothing more than uttering a few words that the judge didn't like.
Right.
Now, Pete and I are both conservative Christians and white, you know.
Right, and you know
But we were there supporting this man's right to speak because the First Amendment is a right for everybody.
Yes.
Right, but
Yes,
speaking
it
of
is.
BLM, we saw how they terrorized the nation. You don't have the right to do that, be violent. You don't have the right to loot. Now you have the right to protest. So these people looted, riot, burned down police station, and it continues to happen in Portland. And the FBI does something about it. They get arrested, they get turned loose, they got bail, or they got their charge completely dropped. This so-called insurrection, January 6th, was people taking pictures, you know, and just being cool in the Capitol, even taking pictures with police. And there you go, you in solitary confinement. It's a two-tiered justice, and it makes absolutely no sense. It's no way we continue to let this happen. We have to tell our neighbors, tell our brothers and sisters.
Exactly.
Everybody have got to push back on this and push back on it now. Because like Cara said, tomorrow it'll be you.
Exactly.
It'll be your children.
Not only that, but I mean, and this is one thing that we ought to focus a little bit more on. At the rally today, I spoke with the guy who came here from Russia back in the 70s, I think it was. And I actually took a video of his testimony. But it's like when you speak with a lot of these immigrants that came from these communist places,
Right.
where they've been through this, they see this happening right now here in America. And these people are standing up. And you know, to me, it's just amazing their stories and
Right.
what they see. And it's like, I think I asked him on the video, it was like, if you had one thing to say to America today, what would you say? Get out, stand up, have these rallies every week on every corner.
Right. And I mean, the biggest allies that we have, a lot of people that we meet from Russia or from China, they hate the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah,
they know what
exactly.
political persecution is. They've been doing it there in
Absolutely.
China for years. I think the Falun Gong, sorry if I'm messing that up.
You
but
got
it's-
that perfect.
Right. They've been persecuted like crazy. So a lot of the Chinese people I meet, they're diehard Trump supporters. They're diehard for freedom and anti-socialism, anti-communism. They're huge allies. Right. And we really need to start, making some more connections with them and understanding how to stop this. And I wanted to hit on one more thing before, we don't have much time. Merrick Garland, who I think is just, I have no love for Merrick Garland.
Zero.
He's a loser. And he said he was bragging that there was 500, we hit the benchmark, 500 people arrested from the Capitol, like he's bragging about it. Right. You loser.
The benchmark that I've actually heard for the better part of 2 months, though, is that this will climb to 700.
Right.
Oh,
That is their magic
So you're
number.
persecuting Americans. When does it stop? Are you going to be more proud if there's 10,000 than 20,000 and then go after their family and friends and the people that believe the same thing? Then you're going to brag even more?
The other part of this is, I mean, if you go back and watch, I think it was 60 Minutes, these shows where the guy leading this investigation bragged about how they pulled FBI agents from all other to focus on this. And all around the country
Right.
now,
Waste
you have
of
so
resources, waste of time.
You waste resources. I mean, I think there was a police officer that was killed in Florida just this past week.
It was.
While 100 and some odd FBI agents was knocking in the door to 73-year-old preacher.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Taking
down there.
resources away that results in the death of other law enforcement.
Yep, the FBI is totally feckless. I'm going to give you a story here real quick. A man flew, because of my coverage of what was happening at the Bundy Ranch, an Antifa guy from Portland, his name is Peter Fournier. Okay, he's a millionaire. He's heir to one of the Johnson & Johnson or Procter & Gamble lotion fortunes or something like that. Well, he took offense to something that I said. He got in an airplane, flew from Portland to Midland, Michigan, drove another 3 hours to my home to deliver a pizza to me that he had poisoned just so that he could see the look on my face. Now, our local sheriff undertook an investigation. He gathered evidence. He got a video of the guy buying the pizza at Pizza Hut. The guy was so proud of what he had done. He uploaded footage that he took himself, along with an admission that he had poisoned the pizza, to Twitter.
Right.
I spoke with Special Agent Barry Rumble. I'm going to say that name again. Barry Rumble from the Flint office of Michigan. The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Insurrection. Barry Rumble told me that the FBI did not have time to open up a multi-state investigation and arrest Peter Fournier, even though my sheriff had delivered his head on a silver platter. My life doesn't matter to the FBI.
I think what we need to do is start a campaign to completely disband the FBI.
Right, or to
Yeah,
and now we
absolutely.
sound like Black Lives Matter.
I'm
Defund
just
the
saying-
FBI.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
I agree with some of the things, not
Okay.
defund, but it need to be restructured.
Listen,
Yeah,
I think-
restructure
But I
the
want
FBI.
to.
I
I want
think
to
this-
listen.
this
I
just-
want to put out a message I got right here, and this is we talk about the left, the right. Now, this is something that all of us can come together on, and it say brotherhood of mankind is good, but not enough. As you know, Cain killed his brother Abel. Brothers fight, and fight. What we need is people having a mindset as parents. If I take a parental position and think, what would I do if I were that person's parents? My answer may be more long term for the benefit of the person's future. It's like, who is the adult in the room? We must take a mature parental position to the masses who are naive and may need discipline, tough love. But ultimately, they need to know and feel we are doing this for their own good and the good of the country and eventually the world. America is a generous place. So this is something that need to be heard when we saying, well, Black Lives Matter said or Antifa said. We need to be the grown up, and we need to try to bring these people, like you say you spoke to Black Lives Matter, we need to bring these people and say it's one cause. This is what we're saying. This is one cause. Everybody need to come together under this one January the 6th so-called insurrection, and we need to push back on it because it wasn't an insurrection. And the way these people are being treated, I don't uphold violence, none of that stuff, but for simply redressing the government, I mean, it's pathetic.
Well, I hate to disagree with you, but it was an insurrection. The only thing is that it wasn't led by Trump supporters. It was led by the Federal Bureau of Insurrection.
So he's saying it was an
Exactly.
insurrection against the American people by the federal government.
Exactly.
It's terrible. It's a terrible thought. And,
Right.
you know, we the people, because the government's not going to do and the politicians aren't going to do, they're not going to start a committee, January 6th committee. So we need to start our own January 6th committee. Everybody out there listening needs to be you need to start doing your own research. You need to start asking questions and posting those questions like Bob is doing, like Randy, like Derrick. And we need to start our own unofficial or maybe even official January 6th committee that's not going to be one-sided, like Nancy Pelosi is going to steer evidence away from herself and evidence away from the state that there was possibly entrapment, that there was possible federal psyops that were involved in this. You know, they're not going to prove any of that in the January 6th. They just want to crucify Trump supporters. They want to crucify the American people. They want to take away privacy rights. They want to strip people of due process. They want to be able to, from here on out, treat American citizens like domestic terrorists, which is disgusting and despicable and should be on all levels looked down on. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, or in between. That's what they're trying to do. So we need to start our own commission. I'm just calling out for everybody to investigate, to look up facts, to send in any videos that you can that will substantiate, and to try to understand what really happened on January 6th, because the government is not telling us. And the stupid bootleg Nancy Pelosi January 6th committee is not going to tell us anything that is factual.
No.
And the other thing that I will say, let me add this. I mean, what is the oath that we took when we went into the military?
To protect this nation from all enemies, foreign and
To support
domestic.
the Constitution, right?
Yes.
Not a presidency, not an administration, the Constitution.
The rule of
Every
law.
law enforcement has some variation of that very same oath. How about we call out our law enforcement officers at every level
Yeah,
to
they need
stand by their oath?
They need to cross that
It's up
blue
to
line.
them. There's a certain duty that they have to determine whether the very orders they're given.
Right,
I
the
mean,
law
this
is-
this was made in when they arrested the guy in Florida, the preacher, that's 73 years old, kicked the door down. When his daughter asked the guy, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" "Oh, it's my job."
So you saying that, Randy, the law is king. No president is above the law.
No,
None of our congresspersons. The law is king. And the law is meant to protect the American citizens and our government itself. So if any of those people break the law, regardless of who they are, they need to be held accountable.
it's
Just
not-
because you're
Absolutely.
FBI agent, CIA agent, you have to be held accountable because law is king, not the FBI is king, not the CIA is king, not the president is king. The law. That's
I would
why
even
the
take that a
framers
step further
put
and
it
say
like
it's the
that.
Constitution. Some laws that
That's why
have
the
been written
framers put it like, what unjust
are in
laws? Of
direct
course not.
violation.
You know, the words inscribed on the face of the United States Supreme Court say equal justice
Right.
under law. We don't have that.
We
now.
don't have
Exactly.
No, we don't. So we're calling out to all the American people to ask questions. Call your politicians, your local senators, your national representatives, and tell them that there are people that are being persecuted politically right now. You don't stand by it, and either they're with the Constitution or they're not, and to stand up for those people. And we're going to have to end here in about a minute, but I just really wanted to put that out there, that there's political persecution going on right now. There's great guys like Bob, Randy, and Derrick. We're all fighting it. We are the committee right now fighting for these January 6ers that are being politically persecuted, and many of them, it's coming out entrapped by the United States government.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, so this needs to be investigated. This needs to be looked upon. And I'm just going to throw it to Derrick to say last few words. Thank you so much, Bob, for sharing your video.
my pleasure.
I hope it goes more viral than it's already gone.
It has to.
Yes, it has to. And that the American public could see it, that everybody could see it, because it's really it just turns everything around on its head.
That's right.
And thank you, Randy, for helping me out with the rally today. Appreciate everything that you always do. Derrick?
Well, I want to thank everybody here, Mr. Powell, the Marine,
Hey, y'all.
and the Air Force guy, Randy.
Chair Force.
Thank all y'all, my co-host, Cara, Castronuova. This has been another episode of Thought Villains. Find us on YouTube, like, and subscribe. We'll be back with more.
She ran over my foot with her car.
I ran over his foot with his car, but he's a Marine and he's badass. What, did it hurt more to get tear gas or when I ran over your foot?
It hurt more to get tear gas.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
See, I don't feel so bad. I ran over his foot outside, but he's good.
I thought
He's
you
good.
Marines like did that all the time, like routine.
No
like,
pain.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. Thank you guys. Good show. Everybody like, subscribe, follow Thought Villains.